Put him on a T, that's what he wanted. Now the thugs mourning, they named the block after him. It's just another thug story. Yeah, it's just another thug story.
Well, sadly, neighbors in this area say they've seen this type of violence before in this part of the city or in other parts of the city, but this is different. Much worse, they say, because there are 3 victims this time. There were children in the house, and the gunfire fired from the front porch. Right now, candles are glowing.
What's up, y'all? Today we're going to be talking about the crime that happened July 30th, 2012 in Providence, Rhode Island at 151 General Street. Let's get right into the story.
These kids are without their mother. They need closure. The family needs closure. And so many people are struck by this. So many people are hurt by this. You know, and it's sad because it happens every day, but she's too young to have gone so soon.
It's crazy.
Jose Hernandez knows one of the men who was shot to death, and he's convinced he did not have any enemies that would kill him.
Had 2 jobs, he worked, did what he had to do, you know, he was a good kid, never had no problems, never got arrested or nothing.
After a night where the frustration and anger boiled over in front of the victim's front door.
Nieces and nephews, and they with a bullet behind their head. And let's see how calm you are.
There are no motives that make sense to the friends of the victims.
Regardless of if it was drug-related, hatred, or if there was animosity with anyone.
Right now you can see a woman just walking away from that front porch where those candles are and the balloons are as well. Police are, of course, looking for clues by themselves, but they're also asking for help from anyone who saw anything that might help them find the killers.
Less than 2 weeks ago, a chaotic scene on General Street in Providence. Inside this apartment, 3 victims shot to death. 22-year-old Damien Colon, 23-year-old Shemeeka Barros, and 23-year-old Michael Martin. A growing memorial outside the home of the tragic scene. Well, police announce an arrest has been made. An unidentified teenager is in custody. He's expected to be arraigned on a charge of murder. The mother of one of the victims, Liz Colon, sharing this statement with Eyewitness News, quote, "We are deeply hurt by the loss of our son Damien. We are pleased that the Providence police has worked diligently to apprehend those responsible. We look forward to more arrests. Damien, Shameeka, and Mike all deserve justice."
The arrest was breaking news on Eyewitness News Live at 5, and tonight we have reaction from the families of the victims. Eyewitness News reporter Nicole Estefan is live with the Providence Mobile Newsroom.
Yeah, I spoke with one of the victims' mothers this evening. She tells me this arrest gives her some relief, but certainly not closure, as a teenager is being held, waiting arraignment on a charge of murder.
This is Russell Burrell, a juvenile at the time when these crimes happened. He admitted to shooting the 3 victims.
The characters here, let us be clear. 19-year-old Russell Burrell, who was a juvenile at the time of the murders, was the one who emptied 17 rounds into 3 human beings, and today was his last day in civilized society for the rest of his natural life. Think of what one has to do to receive life in prison times 6 plus a decade more, and Russell Burrell did it. The 19-year-old sentenced in Superior Court Monday for murdering Shemeeka Barros, Damien Colon, both 22, and Michael Martin, 23. Burrell executed Martin and Colon with a 9mm Glock as they were being herded into a rear kitchen. He then finished the magazine off on Shemeeka Barros, who had simply woken up from a nap. And in a statement, Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Kilmartin said Burrell's actions were not those of a misguided teenager who'd fallen in with a bad crowd, but rather of a cold-blooded and calculating killer.
Less than an hour ago, a judge sentenced Quandell husband to 2 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years in prison. A jury convicted him of murder on Monday for the deaths of 3 people back in 2012.
This is Quandell husband. Now, he originally had got a plea deal for 20 years, but he refused it and ended up taking it to trial and getting 2 consecutive life sentences. But his case, it took a turn in his favor, but we're going to get to that later on.
A full courtroom Thursday morning as 18-year-old Quandell husband was sentenced. Husband turned down a plea of 20 years and was sentenced Thursday to 2 consecutive life sentences plus 10 years. A superior court found husband guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of discharge of a firearm plus 1 count of conspiracy to commit a robbery.
At trial, the family even said that he winked at them and smirked, which was blatant disrespect, and they wanted him prosecuted to the fullest extent. His grandmother at court was very vocal about him being innocent, claiming that he wasn't even there.
Eyewitness News caught up with Catherine Husband, the grandmother outside of court, who says the trial was, quote, bogus.
They have these families hating my grandson when he was never there in the first place.
She insisted Husband was not even a part of the murders that night.
He was home with us. My dad was home with us. I'm a bloody Jesus.
Now this is Donovan Hall, one of the 4 suspects. They really don't mention him too much because he ended up turning state's evidence on Quandale Husband in turn for a lighter sentence.
Husband's lawyer said he had a difficult upbringing and that his age should be a consideration for a more lenient penalty.
There's a void, a hole, and an emptiness that will never be filled.
The air was thick with pain as the family of 22-year-old Damien Cologne spoke eloquently of their loss. This is what murder means.
Timothy DeBrito.
This guy right here is Timothy DeBrito, another one of the suspects. He's supposed to be the guy who gave the gun to the teens in order to commit the crime.
Today, one of 4 people accused in the triple murder pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, 28-year-old Timothy DeBrito. He joins 2 of the other 4 men who already have pleaded guilty.
It is beyond words how much pain and anguish and grief you have put on my family.
Prosecutors say the motive of the murders was money and marijuana.
I accept you're guilty.
A judge sentenced Timothy DeBrito to serve 40 years in prison. The families of the deceased still can't understand.
How did this happen? How could Damien be murdered? How did someone like my son get robbed of his entire life, full of opportunity and goals?
Damien Cologne's birthday was exactly 1 week away from the day he died. How his family celebrates his birthday now is heartbreaking. That's new at 6.
Back to Donovan Hall. Now, this guy was supposed to receive a lesser sentence than all the rest of the suspects in exchange for his testimony on Quandale Husband, claiming that Quandale Husband was the actual shooter. He ended up still receiving a life sentence. They did not honor their promise. So that was in 2013, but in 2015, I'm seeing that he went back and made them honor their promise, basically. Now he's only doing 10 years.
Providence's Quandale Husband was just 16 when the state says he murdered Damien Cologne, Shemeeka Barros, and Michael Martin in cold blood during a drug-motivated robbery at the Arbor Glen housing complex in 2012. A jury convicted Husband. 3 other men pleaded guilty. Tonight, the Rhode Island Supreme Court saying Husband deserves a new trial, ruling jurors shouldn't have been allowed to hear about another shooting as prosecutors tried to link Husband to the gun. This testimony is highly likely to have had an unduly prejudicial impact on the jury. Moreover, the evidence may well have been confusing to the jury. It may have led the jurors to believe that he was somehow implicated in the Ellerby shooting.
My grandson is getting his second chance, and he was always innocent of this crime.
Catherine Husband says there were other problems at trial, and her grandson isn't the hardened thug prosecutors make him out to be.
The truth will all come to the light without all the lies.
We asked if she believes the other men convicted did what the state said they did.
They've gotten the right people, and Quandale was thrown into the mix of it all.
R.I.P. to the 3 victims, Shemeeka Barros, Michael Martin, and Damien Cologne, and my condolences to the family. Make sure that you subscribe so you can stay updated on my next story.
Put him on a T, that's what he wanted. Now the thugs mourning, they named the block after him. It's just another thug story. Yeah.